that was kind of like the aha moment for me when I saw that if I wasn't able to do my job and I was doing other people's work for them, and not because I needed to, because I just wanted to, because I felt like no one could do it like I could, that really was holding us back from explosive growth.
All right, what's up, everyone? Joe Hughes, Contractor Dynamics. I'm here with Josh Jerge of SmartRoof. Josh has built a pretty sizable roofing company over the past few years, and we're going to dig in here to get a little bit of his backstory, get into his mindset a little bit, and learn about what it takes to build a really great culture, recruit and retain top quality talent, and overall just build a great lifestyle while you're doing it. So what's up, Josh? How you doing?
I'm doing great, brother. I'm excited to get this kicked off and learn from each other.
Yeah, definitely. I love collaborating. We're doing virtually here, and you're in Virginia or DC or what?
Yeah, we're just outside DC in Virginia, down in McLean. We just moved our office location, be a little more centralized, so we can reach Maryland. We were a little bit further east before, so new office, new location has been great so far.
Okay, right on. Yeah, I saw some of those new office pics on Instagram earlier this week, and it looks awesome. The training room looks amazing. I definitely want to dig into that a little bit. We're recording this in January. You can tell Josh and I are both kind of bundled up. I'm here in New Jersey and Josh down there. So we got some good time during, before kind of the busy season kicks off to dig into this. So Josh, for those of you who don't know you, can you give us a little snapshot on SmartRoof and kind of your journey so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went to college, graduated with a bunch of student debt, like a lot of us do, and realized that the jobs I was going to be able to get with a business degree right out of college weren't going to allow me to pay all that debt back. So I responded to an ad for a company looking for roofing salesmen, and did that for 5 years. Was able to pay down a lot of my debt, and just realized I was really, really good at it. And then a friend of mine was in the insurance restoration industry. I had no idea that, insurance companies would pay for roofs. So that combined with my sales experience on what we will call the retail side, I just saw a massive opportunity to create a better culture than I was already a part of. And, that's kind of where things set off. We're going on our 6th year now in business, and we just opened up a new headquarters. Things are going awesome. Really been able to help and impact a lot of people along the way.
Cool. So you worked for a company for 5 years, and then you jumped out, started your own. What was the hard? Because that's a very common story in the roofing and contracting industry, right? What was the hardest thing about that maybe you did not expect?
I think the hardest part is not having any support. I know that I've watched a lot of your interviews that you've done. A lot of the guys talk about having to do everything and how do you break out of that. And when you're just a salesman, you don't realize all the work that has to go in to the business, and juggling all of that while you're the only person that's also selling deals is very challenging. It was obviously brand new to me. So figuring out how to master that, and then eventually how to delegate all the different things that need to happen in the business and scale was the biggest challenge, and it is the biggest challenge as we continue to grow. You hear that a lot in the industry. I feel like we've done a really good job of mastering that. But when you have the goals that we have of doubling our revenue every single year, the systems that you had last year need to be updated on a yearly basis. You have to make sure that you built a really, really good team around you, because you're not going to be able to do it all on your own.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, doubling every year. Definitely excited to dig into that. Maybe some numbers as well if you're willing to share. But yeah, that's something that we see all the time in the roofing industry. Someone's great at selling roofs. And they're like, well, why am I giving half the money I'm making to the roofing company? They're not even doing anything. I'm just going to go out on my own. And I think a lot of times there is that kind of like you're blind to like all the other things that go into that, like the insurance and the paying taxes and delegating and managing team and putting out fires and things like that. So I think that's certainly something that a lot of sales reps don't see when they jump out on their own, just from my perspective.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And you're right on with that. The whole delegating thing is huge. I mean, I'm in year 8 of business and still this week trying to figure that out. Like, what are the pieces that I need to get off my plate? It's just one of those constant things that you have to be aware of and constantly be looking to offload things and kind of, up level your weekly duties, if you will. So seems like you figured that out. Would you mind sharing some of those, or like your 2020 revenue numbers and, what you're looking to do in 2021 and whatnot?
Yeah, for sure. So if we backtrack to year one, when it was basically just myself, we did a little over $1 million in about 7 months. And then the following year, we jumped up to 7.5 million. The year after that, a little over 16, then 31. And then this past year, we did a little over 60 million this past year. And originally my background was on the retail side of the residential. And then when you combine that with the storm side and the insurance restoration side of things, and then we've also launched a commercial division, has really allowed us to experience some really explosive growth. But I think like you were talking about, the hardest part of that is if you don't do that properly, it can kind of create a big mess, right? Like you're not going to be able to do all that yourself. And I think where most roofers get stuck is just in the mindset is too small. They're not thinking big enough, right? Like the vision for our company is to become the first $1 billion roofing contractor that does residential storm, residential retail, commercial storm, commercial retail, and government contracts. The $1 billion isn't because we want to make money. That is just the measuring stick. That is the measuring tool for how big of an impact we're able to make, and how much of a difference we'll make in people's lives. We have a lot of people that work here, and I'm sure you've experienced in the roofing industry. A lot of them come from very humble beginnings. And, you're able to take somebody that is kind of really at the bottom of the food chain in a lot of cases economically, and like show them a system and a process and get them to believe in it enough to where like they can change their lives financially for themselves, for their families, for future generations. And if when we reach the $1 billion mark, when I look back on my life, I will know that I've fulfilled my full potential and I've helped as many people as I can when we reach that level. So that's the motivation behind it. It's not because we want, just to say we did $1 billion, is because it's a great measuring stick for, did I live a full life?
Wow. I knew that word impact was coming before you even said it. You're talking about the $1 billion, and it always has to be something bigger than the money, because that driver of the money is never going to last. But having that impact, having that giant lifetime vision is something that certainly will help drive you through those challenging times, as there are pretty much every day, right? So that is awesome, man. That's some incredible growth. Can you just kind of extract a couple keys to that fast growth along the way without kind of imploding? Because especially in the storm restoration industry, we see a lot of roofing companies that they can grow their sales, they can sell, but then they kind of just implode because they don't have any systems to actually produce those jobs and collect the money, and they go out of business. So what are some of the keys that have enabled you to do that successfully?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the first thing is that the team has to believe in the mission. They have to believe in the core values of the company, and our team is 100% bought into making the biggest impact that we can. So once everyone is bought in and you have a mission, why you're doing something, then you can focus on the daily actionables that need to take place to make that happen. So an example is when for roofers, a lot of the small guys, we can rely on our people because you're so small, right? If you're doing $3, $4, $5 million a year, you don't need a ton of people to do that. And you can rely on really high quality people. As you scale and as you grow, something that I learned is you can have a lot of really high caliber quality people that are operating at high levels, but if they're not on the same page, you're going to end up with a mess. So as you scale, it's super important that your process and your systems allow for everyone to work together seamlessly, right? So if 3 people believe that we should reach a sales goal one way, or if you have 3 sales leaders and one believes that we should reach a sales goal one way, one believes we should reach it another way, one believes we should reach it another way, you're never going to hit your targets, right? So aligning everyone together has to be done through the right systems and processes. We all have to be training the same sales pitch. It all has to be the same script. It has to be the same way a sales input has to be done exactly the same way every single time, so that like you're saying, when you sell all of those deals and it comes time to build them, everything's not a mess because you had a bunch of really capable people, but they all did it differently. So as the company scales and as the company grows, you can't rely as much on the people, and you have to rely more on the systems and processes to get you to that next level. And if your people really believe in what you're doing, they believe in the mission, when it comes time to recreate those systems and recreate those processes as you experience growth, it's incredibly difficult. But if everyone believes in what you're doing, you can get through it together. And I think something we've done really well is noticing when someone is in a position that maybe they're not the worst at, but recognizing this person is a better fit as a process engineer, right? This is someone that, yeah, they're on the sales team right now, or maybe they're on the admin team or HR, or whatever it is, but they're really good at taking something complex, simplifying it, documenting it, and implementing it. Taking that person and putting them in a different role where they can thrive and really help the business scale is much more valuable than leaving them in a sales role where, yeah, maybe they're generating revenue, but the overall impact they can have on your business is far greater, right? And recognizing people's skills and talents is incredibly important when you're going to scale a company. If you have the wrong people in the wrong roles, that can cause a pretty big mess.
You articulated that really well. It's the you get the right people on the bus and then get the right people in the right seats. And that makes a ton of sense. And I know me as an owner, as I've grown over the past 8 years, I've realized what I'm good at, what I'm not good at. Obviously, at the beginning, you got to do everything, but you got to realize, where you need to plug in people to fill in those gaps, or you're not so strong.
Right. And then once you have them in the right roles, giving them the manual on how to do their job so that everybody understands whatever each person is responsible for. I think that's where a lot of the growing pains we hear about come from, is just not having those systems in place and the wrong people in the wrong spots.
For sure. Yeah, that was actually my next question, was about, do you have a manual? Are you following some kind of process, or is this something that you're inventing as you go along? What's that look like?
Yeah. So like I said, when you're growing and you're doubling, sometimes you realize what worked for 30 million didn't work for 60 million. So it's not something like, okay, once it's set in stone, that's it forever. You have to be open-minded and hey, maybe we need to tweak things because what worked last year is not going to work this year. It's fairly difficult. But again, if everyone believes in the mission, you can solve the problems. You can count on your people to solve the problems and recreate systems and recreate processes to allow for growth. And then something we started focusing on last year and this year is, okay, we have a blueprint. We know that doubling in size revenue, we have a track record of doing now. So keeping that in mind, where are we headed? And then trying to implement systems and processes that we can use down the road to the best of our ability, where we're not having to adjust quite as much along the way. So that I would say that is, I'm not really involved in the day-to-day anymore. I don't run the sales meetings. I don't run the operations meetings, the production meetings. I'm not answering phone calls. I'm focusing on building the systems and processes that allow the team to operate at the highest level and allow for growth, which is what I enjoy doing.
Right on. Now, are you referencing an existing framework? Are you talking with other company owners that are at those higher levels? Are you bringing these things in from different areas, or is this you?
Yeah. It's a really good question, because I did look for answers externally, Joe, and there's a lot of really smart people in the industry, and there's a lot of people that are selling it's a sales pitch, right? And you give them a bunch of money, and it doesn't quite turn out the way that you want it to. I know you're on the marketing side of things. You hear horror stories all the time about bad marketers asking for money, and then they can't, deliver on their promises. And there are some people that do, consulting for streamlining process. But what I've found, and I think this is something that I heard you say as well, is looking outside of the roofing industry is super, super powerful, because there's a lot of really, really intelligent, smart people in other industries that can give you the principles that work in any business. And, when you combine that with the right people, so an example would be, we have a new role that we created in our company last year, called a process engineer. And the guys that are in that role they helped the military build their systems and processes on how to run a submarine, how to fly a helicopter, et cetera, down to like push this button at this time to get to, for this to happen. And the combination of having those people in place and keeping in the future in mind for growth is really, I would say that that's the secret, is not relying so much on what's being done right now, but being innovative and thinking outside the box and looking at other industries and other people, and then allowing the right employees to implement those things. Did I explain that okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, I 100% agree. I grew up in the construction industry in my family's business, and that was one of the reasons why I started Contractor Dynamics, is because I saw the gap there in the construction industry and the roofing industry tend to be a few years behind the times when it comes to, even basic things like CRMs or like, lead handling or follow-up and things like that. Marketing for sure. Right.
I saw a video earlier this year when the lockdowns happened and like the whole social distancing thing came into place, and like there was a contractor in one of the Facebook groups who like made like he was knocking doors and he was trying to account for social distancing, and he took his paper contract and turned it into like a paper airplane and was like trying to like throw it to the homeowner at the door. And like, that's creative, but I'm like, dude, it's 2020. Like there's electronic signatures, you know what I mean? Like, why don't you just email it to them? But like you said, the industry is just a little bit behind. And for us to get ahead and to double every year, we need to be on the forefront of thinking and looking outside of the industry for answers.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of our clients are increasingly, at our suggestion, a lot of times hiring like an inside marketing manager, in-house marketing manager, marketing person. And we encourage our clients, or anyone in the industry really, to go find someone outside the roofing industry who's got experience doing some marketing for, maybe it's healthcare or whatever. And they're able to come in, be a fresh set of eyes, and bring in some, what are kind of normal, marketing practices and strategies into a dinosaur kind of an industry and have a big impact. And a lot of times when owners fail to do like, when they fail to innovate or fail to do like good or even decent marketing, it's because they're so like, they've got the blinders on, they're so in it every day, and they just don't, it's hard for them to put themselves in the shoes of a homeowner or a commercial building owner, decision maker, to think about like, what problems do they have? Like, what's going on in that homeowner's head? Like, they don't know the technical details of a roofing system. So like, don't talk about those things in your marketing, right? Talk about the things that they want. They want peace of mind. They want an easy process. They want to save, they want a fair deal, whatever it is that they want. So if you are, anyone watching, listening, is in that position where you're like, yeah, we need to do some of this stuff, we need to innovate, I would absolutely encourage you to look outside the industry. There's a lot of talented people out there that may or may not have gone to college. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of people that have a lot of good skill sets, whether it's marketing, whether it's some automation processes, video, photography, and things like that. There's a wealth of people all around you. So expand your network and expand your mindset beyond the the roofing Facebook groups, if you will, just to use that as an example.
Yeah, really well said, Joe. I totally agree.
Cool. You make it easy. You can disagree with me, even though it's my podcast here.
Yeah, I just think that if we thought as an industry more like business owners and less like roofers, that people would be doing a lot better for themselves. And that's something that I really believe in. Yeah,
for sure. So switching gears a little bit, you mentioned your role is to focus on systems and kind of the visionary role. What can you give us a glimpse as to what your executive or what your leadership team looks like, who you have in place?
Yeah. So right now we have 2 locations. We're going to bring up a third later this year. So everything that, I've talked to a lot of people that have tried to scale roofing companies before. Some of them had really good advice. Some of them had really bad advice, but I really wanted to find out, why did the guys that failed? And, when you're moving all across the country, the common theme that I heard was, I just take what I have here in my first office and I just duplicate that in my next office. So I got someone leading the sales team, someone leading production, an admin, an accountant, someone to answer the phones, et cetera. And I think that what I noticed was a pattern from all the people that I talked to was they end up operating 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different companies. So what we've really tried to do is centralize everything that can be centralized at our headquarters location and only put the people in place at other locations that really truly have to be present in those areas. So all the calls are taken here, anything that can be done digitally is done at headquarters. And then our sales teams and our project managers are the only ones at our satellite locations. So an office will consist of a sales VP, a production VP, and then everything else is done here at headquarters. And then underneath of me, I've got the head of every single department. So admin, human resources, someone that oversees all of the sales VPs, just a standard, again, not following the industry, following standard business practice is super important.
Right. Okay, great.
And again, because everybody believes in what we're doing, I can trusting your team to do the job is so important. I think a lot of times when you're struggling to grow, it's because you feel afraid, that's a big project. I can't, I need to do that. And then you end up doing everything yourself, and you got to surround yourself with a team, and you got to trust them to do the job. There's literally nothing that happens in our day-to-day that I don't feel like I can delegate. Now, I love growth. I love making a difference for more and more and more people. And that's what I'm able to focus on. And everything else, there's not one thing that I can't delegate to someone.
Yeah, that's, as an owner, that's something that we kind of hold on to with a death grip, especially, like you said, bigger projects or maybe bigger clients that we have, I got to be on that one. And I find myself saying that, to myself once in a while as well, but we have to check our assumptions there, and we've got to trust our team. And for anyone who's smaller and maybe just starting out and growing, it's an amazing feeling when that first time that you delegate something to someone on your team and they take care of it, they handle it great, maybe even better than you would have. And it just gets done. You're like, wow, that thing, that roof got done. It got sold. It got built. The money was collected, and I don't even know the customer's name. That's a powerful feeling, because then you have that catalyst for getting to that next level beyond your own hustle.
Yeah, you can only scale so much as one human.
Yeah, and in this industry, it's that hustle mentality, the Gary Vee type mentality, grinding 18 hours a day, and I definitely have that blue collar work ethic from having grown up in the industry. And I'm the guy who's all right, I'm just going to get it done. I'm going to put my head down. I'm going to drink a lot of coffee and just work until it's done. And while, that's necessary once in a while, as you grow, that's more of a detriment that's going to hold you back more than anything else. So
when we were first starting to grow, I saw the impact that I was having on the rest of the team when I was in the field doing something. That was a big indicator for me, I can't do this anymore, right? I have to build this out in a way that allows me to support the team, because I'm hurting them if I'm out here in the field, and that was kind of the aha moment for me when I saw that if I wasn't able to do my job and I was doing other people's work for them, and not because I needed to, because I just wanted to, because I felt like no one could do it like I could, that really was holding us back from explosive growth. I think that's something that a lot of guys really struggle with in the industry. Yeah,
absolutely. I've definitely gone through my challenges there, and it takes a little bit of work. It takes a lot of self-awareness and reflecting on what you're doing during any given week, and looking at that and holding yourself accountable for focusing on those higher level activities. Getting more into your team, Josh, I imagine you guys do a ton, or I know you guys do a lot of recruiting. Can you give us some insight as to how many sales reps you have in any given year, what your recruiting and training system looks like, and all that?
Yeah. So last year we had roughly 40 people on the sales team between both locations. This year our target is to, by default, it's double that, but we need to have 80 people on average, which means we're going to need to recruit around 90 to 100. We do a really, really good job of retaining our sales team, which I know a lot of people struggle with. And it all depends on what you want. And it depends on, the business model that you have in place is going to dictate how you recruit and, how you keep those people on board. Because sometimes we hire somebody, they're great, and then they leave for another company and we're left going, what happened? And I think that comes down to really finding out what that person wants, right? Like, why are they looking for a new opportunity? Why are they looking for a new job? If they were working with another roofing company, why are you leaving? And letting them know that that isn't going to be the case here. And the vision for our company is so big that everyone's dreams can fit inside of it. And there is no cap and there's no limit, and really laying out the path for them from when they come on, and then based on what they tell you they want, how do they get there? Right. I think that we just like, oh, well, I hired the sales guy, so I'm going to send him with Ricky Bobby and he's going to train today and he's going to be the sales guy. And, you have to lay a very clear groundwork for your people to make progress throughout their career. And then you have to lay very clear groundwork on how they're going to hit their financial goals, not just like, well, if you knock this many doors, you're going to be able to make $100,000. Well, why do you want to make $100,000? What is your purpose? Right. Well, and then you can really retain people, because instead of giving them $100,000, you're helping them provide for their family, buy that house that they want, pay for their daughter's college, whatever, drilling down to what it is that they really truly care about and why they're doing this. And then showing them the path to get there is the key to, one, recruiting good people, and two, retaining good people. And we have very, very, very low turnover for a sales team that's 100% commission based because of that, right? And the way that our commissions are set up, if you go out and you kill it, you will make a lot of money. And it gives those people, the top salespeople, they feel like they don't have a ceiling anymore. And then doing our best to take everything off of their plate that isn't selling, right? So I know that in our industry, it's very common for someone to go out and sell a deal, and then they go out to the adjuster meeting, and then they write the supplement, and then they schedule and coordinate the materials, and they work with the homeowner, and then they pick up the final check. And like, if that guy's doing all of that, he's not selling, right? So you're capping his potential. And like, our whole business model is built on everything that we can take off of that salesperson's plate, we do it, right? And allows that person to go out and sell way more than the industry average, which I think is like 300 grand or 400 grand last time I looked. And our average guy does about $1 million.
Wow, that's a good stat to use in recruiting, I'm sure. And yeah, I've never ever understood that in this industry. It's like, why would you have your sales reps out there managing projects, like dealing with all the different like moving parts that go into that, getting a project built and collected? It doesn't make any sense to me. Our sales team is structured the same way, where they enroll someone into our program, into our services, and that's it. We take over from there and onboard them and serve them and whatnot, and they're moving on to go talk to someone else. So that makes a lot of sense. I don't know. I think that's a cause for a lot of turnover, sales rep turnover in the industry, where like guys and girls are just like burnt out, because you're dealing with like adjusters, you're dealing with financing, you're dealing with homeowners, like during the course of the project, change orders, like whatever it might be. It's just like there's too many moving parts to be good at one thing, and I think there's a lot of burnout there.
Yeah, absolutely. People run, they run their guys into the ground, and they're like, well, why didn't we sell any this month? Well, all your guys were building jobs. They're project managing. They weren't selling. You know what I mean? And I would say that that's probably the number one thing that's allowed us to grow. We get a lot of people that come over from other companies because of that. They're just not, they can't do what they enjoy doing, what they want to do. If they wanted to be a project manager, they go be a project manager somewhere. Like, they want to sell, right? And like, you have to give them the vehicle to do that at the highest levels, where they can make the kind of money that they want to make to provide for their families, fulfill their dreams. And eventually, if they want it, work their way up in the company. And because the growth vision is so big, it's not like, well, there's only one VP, and maybe when he retires in 20 years, you could be there too. That's not inspiring for anybody, right? There has to be what's next, and Tony Robbins says it best, that like, progress is happiness. And if you don't have a vehicle for people to progress, then you're going to have a very hard time keeping them around. If you think about the times when you're unhappiest in life, it's usually when you're not making progress in your relationships, in your work, in your mental health, your physical health. And even once you hit those things that you think are going to make you happy, if you have a goal of, I'm going to sell $1 million this year, once you do it, you're like, okay, well, what's next? right? And like you realize that the end goal isn't really what makes you happy. It's the progress of going from who you were yesterday to the best version of yourself today over and over and over and over again. And then you can look back on your life and reflect and be grateful, and then it's right back at it the next day. And that is what allows for people to be happy. And I think we do a really good job of giving that to our employees.
That's really well put. Really well put. I run marathons once in a while, and I've used that analogy before. Like, you train for 4 months for a marathon, and marathon day is fun, but to me, the reward is more about that process, that 4-month process of getting faster, of challenging yourself, of getting fit, feeling better, having more energy, like all those things as you're kind of progressing toward that ultimate goal. So I definitely understand that. Where do you find people? Where do you recruit people? Because let me back up a second. You asked 10 roofing companies, what's holding you back right now from getting to the next level? You know, a couple of them might say leads or something like that, but a lot of them are going to say just finding the right people. You hear that all over the place, especially this time of year. We're recording this in January, where most companies are starting to ramp up their sales teams right now, starting to do some recruiting. So what's your secret? Where do you find these A players?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's a combination of social media, traditional recruiting methods like Monster, Indeed, things like that. And then the best recruits are always referrals, right? If a guy is doing really, really well and he brings on his buddy or she brings on her friend, and it's like, well, I don't know about what this guy, is telling me in this interview. It sounds good. That can be a harder recruiting process than I already know that this works because I know this guy since I was 15 years old. And like, I don't know what's happened the last 2 years, but he is like living life to the max and I want that. And like that person is so much more bought in and you get such a better result from them. And it's much, much easier. So we really try and create that culture of providing for our employees, giving them the ability to hit the targets that they have, helping them fulfill their dreams and get the things that they want. And then they can't help but talk about it. And if they don't talk about it, people just notice. Like, what my favorite thing is to take something that I personally struggled with, or something that, someone I know close to me is struggling with, and giving them the vehicle to get out of that situation, whatever that may be. And, watching them go out and tell other people about it. And then those people coming in and changing their life is super, super, super rewarding. You retain those people at a really high level. And it's just like, it's super old school, but it's literally like word of mouth. I think Elon Musk said it best. Like, they don't do any marketing. They don't do you just focus on making the best product. And for us, the product is how can we build the best vehicle for our employees to grow and make progress, right? That's our product. And if we can do that well, we're going to grow by default. We have people pouring in 10, 15 people a month without even trying, that are referrals of people that already work here.
Wow. What is this? I'm thinking as you're talking about this, Josh, like, where does this come from? Like, this drive to help people improve their situations, overcome circumstances. Is that something that, digging a little bit deeper, is that something that was like present during your, from your parents, from your childhood, or like, is that something that you've learned over time, or where does that drive come from? Yeah,
I think that, when you set out to do this stuff and then you start to make a little bit of money, it's like, okay, I thought that where I was previously, I was never really financially well off. My family wasn't financially well off. And you realize that once you get a little bit of money, it's like we were talking about earlier. Once you get to a certain level, all you want is the next thing. It kind of never ending. So what is the real purpose here? And I think it was Warren Buffett who said that what you need to do is sit back and think about yourself at 80 years old on your deathbed, looking back on your life. And like, what does that mean? And are you happy? Right. And if it's just about making money, for me, I wasn't going to be, I realized that making money wasn't going to make me happy. So I was like, okay, well, what is the bigger purpose? What truly makes me happy? I thought it was this, but it's not. And the thing that I realized was, like, if I could look back and say that I helped X amount of people go from where I used to be and where I was to getting everything that they were told that they couldn't have, that I could look back on my life and say that I lived the full life and I would be happy with that.
Awesome. That reminds me of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where at the bottom of that pyramid, there's like safety and security, which is making money and providing for your family, having a roof over your head, no pun intended. And then rising up or leveling up that pyramid to where you get to self-actualization, which is, thinking about yourself where you are when you're 80 and you're on your deathbed, or hopefully older than 80, maybe 100 or even more. But at the end, like, what have you done? What impact have you had? Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it. You've got the passion, you've got the drive. Obviously it's obvious by now that your focus is on really helping people transform. So can you give us a glimpse as to the training that people get when they come into SmartRoof, and maybe some ongoing training, what that looks like?
Yeah. So again, everything is processed and systemized out. So no matter who's training them, it's being done exactly the same way. Everyone gets the same training. And I know that a lot of us start out on the sales side of things. So let's just talk about that. If you have a guy come in, you recruit, and your training process is send him with your top guy, and like that's how he's going to learn, you're never going to be able to scale, right? You're not going to get good results. And you have to really sit back and write it all out, right? Create a training manual where anybody can sit there and train a salesperson if you're not around, right? And you can effectively delegate that to somebody else. And once they have that foundation, is the right foundation, it works, it's repeatable, most people can do it. Once you have that, again, it really goes back to motivating a salesperson. You have to find out what they want and then show them that learning the script, performing it the same way every single time, overcoming objections will lead to certain numbers, will lead to a certain income, will allow you to do all these things that you're saying that you want. And that's the recipe. That's the system for success. Have a repeatable, duplicatable training system, find out what someone wants, show them that performing that system from beginning to end is going to help them ultimately get what they want in the end. Because a lot of times people come out of training, they have no idea what they're doing because some guy they just watch somebody do their job 10 times and they kind of got to figure it out. And then they don't get a good result, and then they're not confident, and then they go into a slump, and then they leave your company because they're not making any money, right? But if you show them the steps, step by step, how to do it, and it's like, if you do this, you will get what you want. If you do this, you'll get what you want. Keep going. Just take the next step. Don't worry about the end result. Take the next step. Make progress. People start to get results, and they start to get confident, and they start to make money. They start to believe in what you're saying, right? Not just because you said it, but because they're actually experiencing it and they're living it. And that snowballs over time, and eventually end up with a guy that's, doing things he never thought were possible. And he's super happy. He's referring people, and he's really thriving in your company.
That must be super rewarding. I get it totally. Is there any sort of like ongoing training after that initial, like do you guys have a like continuous learning process or something like that?
Yeah. So you spend your first 30 days in the classroom, and then we cut you loose. And that you do go along and shadow other people, doing their job, but only after we've laid the foundation, the groundwork for how we want it to be done. And then you go and watch somebody else do it. It helps boost your confidence. Then we cut you loose to do it yourself. Then you come back into the office after you go out and try, the things that we've told you to execute on, how to go. Went good, great, do that again. It didn't go so well. Well, let's talk about it. What happened? And actively training, and not just like, oh, training's over, so you're done now, but constantly training every single day to really ingrain the habits that are required for a successful salesperson. And that translates to the rest of your business as well. Giving them the blueprint and the training manual to perform their work, having them watch someone else do it, having them execute on it, giving them feedback on how it went, things to adjust. Hey, remember we talked about this in training. That's why you're not getting this result, right? And it allows people to grow, right? And that's ultimately what we're looking for. Growth.
Yeah, it's so key. So we covered a lot here, Josh. I'd like to ask, is there anything that you wanted to cover that I didn't ask? Anything you want to share?
No, not really. What do you, when you talk to a lot of contractors, Joe, what separates like the best guys that you talk to, the guys at the top of the industry, from the people that are struggling?
Oh, that's a good question. So, I mean, from a tactical perspective, it's that delegation part. It's like getting clear on, well, let me back up. It's getting clear on that vision, which you have, that long-term vision, that billion-dollar company, starting with the end in mind. Because it's not like you see a lot of companies or a lot of owners like, I want more leads. I need to do more marketing. I need more sales reps. And it's like, well, what's your goal? Like, what's your target for this year? And that's something that we help our clients with when they come into our training programs. We help them, get clear on their goals. So it's really like having that clarity. Number two, being aware of what they're doing on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, and then figuring out what they can delegate. So we covered that. Like you touched on before, is the power of the team and the just getting out of the mindset of like, if this needs to get done, then I need to do it. Like getting out of that hustle mindset, that hustle mentality is, I think, the biggest thing. The strength of the pack. What is it? The strength of the wolf is the pack, and the strength of the pack is the wolf. I just read that in a book I'm reading, and I think that's really, really strong when it comes to team building and having everyone going in that same direction. So, I would say that, and really, like, this sounds so simple, but taking a step back, like taking a day off and just like thinking about this stuff. It's clear that you do that, Josh. Like it's clear that you're not just like, slamming coffee for 18 hours a day and just grinding. Like you're doing a lot of thinking, and probably more thinking than you are actual like labor. Like I'm obviously not on a roof doing labor, but spending time thinking and strategizing and looking at things that are working from other industries and all that. I think that for anyone, and I'm guilty of this too, like you get so busy that you don't pick your head up and like look at where you're going. And I think that's huge as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And like most people are pretty, they're aware of what they need to do, but they're like, the thing that holds them back is just not executing on it. Right. So there's a difference between thinking and like thinking and then taking action. If you just think about it, it's never going to happen. Like you have to think through it and then you actually have to implement it. Because if you just think about it, 1 year from now, you're going to be in the exact same place that you were. Right. So thinking about it, clarity on it, and maybe it's not perfect, but not waiting for it to be perfect. Just do it. Right. And like, the only question you really need to ask yourself is, if I do this and let's say it fails, will this gamble the whole company? And if the answer is no, then don't overthink it. You know what I mean? Like just do it, implement it. And if it works, you solved it. And if it doesn't work, like you can tweak it, maybe go back to the drawing board. But I think that inaction also, because you're so afraid sometimes to like lose what you have or like try and wait till it's going to be perfect, and it just holds you back from growth if that's your goal, and if you can focus on the actual action of implementing the things that you're thinking of, I think that when you look up, you'll evolve so much from who you were, even just a year's time, 6 months time, a quarter. You can get a lot done in a quarter by just acting and not overthinking. You can paralyze you.
Yeah, analysis paralysis is a killer for sure. The thing about that is like we're always going to be busy. Our plates are always going to be full. There's never going to be right time or a perfect time. And we're never gonna find the time, right? We make time for those things that are priorities, that are important. So again, like I've been guilty about that in the past, and what's helped me, and maybe this will help someone who's watching or listening, is speaking about your goals or your vision or your targets to someone else. Maybe it's just a spouse, not just a spouse. Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's a good friend. Maybe it's someone else in the industry. Maybe it's a mastermind group or an accountability partner. That can really help to have someone else hold you accountable. Or if you have like a monthly mastermind meeting, that you don't want to show up to that not having done what you said you were going to do. So that can be an added way to hold yourself accountable for executing. Otherwise, you can just continue to lie to yourself and make those assumptions that I don't have time. I'm gonna find the time someday. Yeah. We all know someday is not one of the days of the week, so that never happens unless we put it in the calendar. We make time to execute on that.
Yeah, man, 100%. If you can figure that piece out, like a lot of things will start to happen for you. And you look back and be like, wow, like I made a ton of progress this year. The only thing that holds you back is you don't do anything. There's so many ways to become successful, whether that's financially, spiritually, however you define success. But the difference between everybody who gets what they want and everybody who doesn't is 1 year from now, what have you done? Not what are you thinking about, because a year from now, I know that for me, I'm going to get everything that I want because I actually acted on it. And there's other people that won't because they're still thinking about it, right? Like while you're thinking, somebody else is doing. If you can just break out of that cycle, because we're all pretty smart. Like there's very few people that are business owners that aren't sharp. And as long as you believe in what you're doing, and it's not going to bury your entire company, stop thinking and implement it, and I think that that's really growth if that's what you want.
Yeah, well said, Josh. Thanks for sharing. I think that's the perfect place to start to wrap things up here. I mean, that's the lesson. And you've heard from someone who's gone from 0 to over 60 million in 6 years. So I think everyone should listen to this guy and what he's got to say. So I want to give you an opportunity, Josh, to let people know. Obviously, you presented your or shared a lot of awesome stuff about your company and the opportunities that are available in your company. And no secret that this type of content right here is good brand building content for your business and for my business as well. And hopefully it helps people in the industry, adds value to people, helps people get over those, get out of their own mindset and, maybe execute a little bit more. If someone is in the industry, maybe looking for a better opportunity, where exactly are you guys? You're in Northern Virginia, Pennsylvania, a little bit here in Jersey, correct?
Yeah. So we service the greater Washington, D.C. market and the greater Philadelphia market. And then we have plans to expand up and down the East Coast over the next 3 years. So you'll be hearing of new locations opening up over the next 3 to 5 years up and down the East Coast. But if you want to find me on Instagram, it's at Josh Jergens. And if you want to find us online, it's smartroofinc.com. And if you need a marketing job, hit Joe up.
Awesome stuff. Thanks for the plug. And go check out SmartRoof. They have an amazing website. They have an amazing careers page, which I share with a lot of our clients. I'm like, you want to build a careers page and attract people that are excited to work for your company. Go check out the careers page at SmartRoof. It's awesome, man. There's cool videos and whatnot. So go check that out, get some ideas. Thanks so much, Josh. It's been awesome to get to know you. Thanks for sharing your journey so far. And I look forward to following you along to the $1 billion mark and beyond so you can have that impact that you want to have.
Thanks, brother. It was great to talk to you. I learned a lot from you as well and look forward to having conversations with you in the future, man.
All right. Appreciate it. Take care, man.